How to stop procrastinating and get things done. Now, the first thing to recognize is that all of us, we all reside in the nation of procrasta. The reason why we procrastinate is because there's some sort of payoff. But it's also important to distinguish that you are not a procrastinator. Procrastination is really just a habit. And if we understand that it's just a habit and it's not us, then we can use science to actually fix it. Now, the number one reason that causes procrastination is really over-planning and over-analyzing. So in this video, I'm going to be walking you through what are the different causes of over-planning, because if we understand what causes us to over-plan, then we can understand how do we actually overcome it. The first cause of over-planning is to accept uncertainty. If we can accept uncertainty, knowing very well that every great plan, every great ambition, every great goal is filled with uncertainty, then it becomes a whole lot easier in order to tackle this goal, this task, and this thing that we want to do. If you take a look at every great thing that is ever achieved by mankind, you will understand and you will see that literally they once knew, or rather they once had no idea what they were about to do. Yes, there was planning involved, but planning is very different from over-planning, because over-planning is what causes analysis paralysis, and that is when we end up doing nothing. And that brings us to number two, start doing. Now, the reason why it's safe to actually do nothing, and I understand the irony that you could be watching a video on how to get past procrastination and you are actually procrastinating right now. But one of the best ways to overcome procrastination is to take one small bite-sized step today, right now. The way to do it is just by telling yourself, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spend 5 minutes on this task. Wouldn't you agree that when it comes to going to the gym, if you could just tell yourself, all I need to do is to get myself to the gym, and then I'll decide if I want to do the workout or not, the possibility of you actually doing the entire workout becomes a lot more realistic. The way to do it is to start off by thinking, let me just do the first step. And that's number two, start doing. Number three, to be okay with mistakes. The truth is, because of the way we were brought up, our school, our upbringing, chances are we've all been told, don't make mistakes and mistakes are bad. But then again, if you think about it, what if you told yourself that, hey, look, doing nothing, that's my first option, or doing something and making the mistakes? Which do you think is going to get you slightly closer to the goal? The truth is, mistakes is when we can actually learn, we can actually adapt, and if we're flexible with our goals and our plan of action, that is when it takes us one step closer. So that's number three, be okay with making mistakes, because it is through mistakes you are actually one step closer towards the goal. And that brings us to number four, to look at the big picture. If we can understand what that big goal is, that is when we can reverse engineer, and that is when we can actually chunk it down. So look at the big picture and chunk it down. And finally, number five, to live in the present. The truth is, the reason why we procrastinate is because we are looking somewhere into the far future, and then there's this big scary goal, and because there's 172 things to be done, we end up doing nothing. So live in the present. Decide today, these are the three things I'm going to get done. In the next 5 minutes, this is what I'm committed to doing. Live in the present, and that is when you'll actually start doing. And that brings me to number six. In order to overcome this overthinking and overanalyzing, number six is to believe in your ability to figure things out. Now, this is something that's huge for me. And this is really kind of like developing confidence. I know that whenever I embark in something that is unusual or uncomfortable, something that's not in my comfort zone, I will believe in my own ability to figure things out. Think about what got you here today, the results that you had in life, and all of your biggest fears and challenges and obstacles that you had at one point in time. Think about that for a second. Wouldn't you agree, all those obstacles and challenges and things that were once really scary, or rather even seemed impossible to you, now that you have done it, faced it, wouldn't you agree that it wasn't that bad after all? So what if, same thing in the future, What if you could believe in yourself, in your ability to figure things out? Then the path becomes a whole lot easier. Now that we understand that what causes procrastination is over-planning, let's talk about practical strategies to overcome this. Now that we understand, okay, if we are just thinking too much about things, what are practical steps that we can do right now to kill this procrastination? I wouldn't say once and for all, because it's always going to be there, because there's a payoff to procrastination, but help us work towards getting stuff done. Number one is setting a time limit. Now the truth is, whenever something is not really urgent, we never get it done. When everything is important, when we have 156 things that's important, how many things do we actually get done? The truth is, nothing. One way to do it is if you can move the thing that is important to either critical or urgent. So one of the things I do, I self-impose this upon myself, which is rather than saying we're going to launch this thing when it's done, I tell my team and I tell myself, no matter what, we are telling our audiences right now that we are launching this thing 5 weeks from now. And guess what? Because of that, it pushes us to meet the goal, the deadline. What if that could be you? What if that is you announcing it to your peers, your friends, your colleagues, that this is the goal, this is when it's going to be done, and there's going to be some sort of pain involved if you don't actually get it done. Because you set a time limit, chance of you actually doing it is going to be a whole lot higher. Number two is to work backwards. Think of it as like a wedding date. The date is set, it's impending, it's going to happen. Now you got to work backwards and decide what are the different milestones you need to hit, by when, and because of that, the odds of you now, again, taking these small bite-sized pieces along the way is going to be a lot harder. That brings us to number three. Number three is to chunk it down. Think about that for a second. The reason why most people never take action on that big, scary goal is because that goal is too big. Kind of like setting a goal to lose 100 pounds. Think about that for a second. If all of a sudden I had to lose 100 pounds, wouldn't you agree that just saying I need to lose 100 pounds, that statement alone, that declaration is very scary? But what if the goal wasn't to lose 100 pounds? What if it was to say, I want to lose 1 pound? Wouldn't you agree that it becomes a whole lot easier? And what if after you hit the 1 pound, you say, I'm going to lose my next pound, and then the next one? Now it becomes a lot more realistic, it becomes a lot more exciting, because now you're able to celebrate the little victories along the way. That's number three, to chunk it down into bite-sized pieces so that, number four, you can now take the first step. Look, this relates back to what I said earlier. If we can commit to taking just that first step, the odds of us completing the entire thing now is going to be a whole lot higher. Take that first step today. Most of the time, you know what people say when they want to complete this huge goal? They say, I'm waiting for inspiration. When somebody says, I know I need to write my book, but I haven't started yet because I'm waiting for inspiration. Like, what does that even mean? Does it mean that one day when I'm walking by the beach and I see this bird flying across, now it's all flies around me, but there's this bird that flies over there, and say, hey, that was the inspiration I was waiting for all this time? That doesn't happen. It is motion. You don't wait for the emotion to create motion. You have motion to create the emotion. Yeah, that's a pretty good phrase right there. Think about how can you take that first step so that it eventually gives you the emotion, so that eventually gives you that feeling of wanting to get it done. So that brings us to number five. Number five is to understand that environment is stronger than willpower. Think about who are you hanging out with? How have you shaped your environment? Have you controlled your environment? Because if not, your environment will end up controlling you. If I want to lose weight, rather than saying, I need to eat salad every day, I must not eat this chocolate cake, wouldn't you agree it's a whole lot easier not buying the garbage and trash food from grocery store in the first place? Right? Wouldn't you agree that it's a whole lot easier that if you control the environment, that is a whole lot easier than having the environment control you and having the willpower to actually do it. Number six is to review your progress. If you take a look at every single person that once had a scary goal, how did they actually hit it? It is because they measured their progress along the way. When you measure your progress along the way, it becomes a lot more fun, it becomes a lot more exciting, it becomes a lot more motivating, because you can see how far you've come and your odds of actually finishing it becomes a whole lot easier. So here's what I would like you to do right now. I want you to stop procrastinating, and I do realize that you spent about 10 plus minutes watching this video. So let's stop procrastinating right now. Below this video, let me know the action steps you are committed to taking right now. It's going to take you 5 minutes, but that small bite-sized step that will take you one step closer to that goal. Let me know in the comments below, and as always, subscribe for future videos like these.